Greetings and welcome to Trinity Radio. I'm Jonathan Pritchett, and along with me is
Braxton Hunter.
And
ho.
Braxty Claus. And as predictable as the sunrise, it never fails that every year an atheist organization wants to get all Grinch and ruin Christmas for public school kids. And this year is no exception, is it, Braxton?
It's no exception, although actually I kind of thought it was going to be. I mean,
Yeah.
I take it for granted that around America and around the world, there are, at least the Western world, there are probably atheist organizations moaning about some display somewhere.
Yeah, it's a display
something.
or public school kids taking a field trip to a church to go watch their play or whatever. I've heard about that some years that happens. Some atheist organization headed up by a former fundamentalist who became an atheist crusader, usually the son of a preacher, by the way, and he wants to go Grinch it up and ruin Christmas for kids.
Yeah, but I thought this year, at least in terms of what's newsworthy, we weren't really going to get anything. But I actually known about this one for a few weeks. And yes, I know that John McCrae already did a video about this. I didn't know that till this morning when I went to actually find, the stuff I wanted to use for this. But I know this happened several weeks ago, the news about this. And so basically what it is that the Freedom from Religion Foundation, which is, the co-president is Dan Barker, who earlier this year in the fall, I had a debate with on the nature of human freedom. It was the same organization that got upset when a judge gave a Bible to someone and it really touched their lives and there was tears and all these kind of things. And that was horrible. And so
awful.
They stuck up for those people who received the abuse of being given a Bible.
Yes.
And so here we are again. Now what's happened is they put pressure on a school not to participate in Operation Christmas Child, which is put on by Samaritan's Purse. Operation Christmas Child is a program in which individuals will put together, or organizations will come together and put together shoeboxes full of toys and a gospel tract to be given to impoverished children around the world. And many schools, I guess, have been involved in this. Churches for sure. Private groups have been involved in it. And it's a great way for children that would otherwise get no Christmas anything are going to get Christmas presents. But the atheists have said, no, you're not going to get those Christmas presents because we want to step in and make sure that that's not being done, because there's going to be a gospel track in it, and it's a Christian organization, and not just any Christian organization. It happens to be the organization over which Franklin Graham presides, who is the son of the famous Billy Graham. Did you ever get to see Billy Graham preach in person, Jonathan?
I did, at War Memorial Stadium in Little Rock sometime in the 80s, I think.
I did at the Titan Stadium in Nashville in the early 2000s. So I guess I've got some articles on this, but I'm so glad that all of you are here. And Merry Christmas to everyone. Yes, some of you have commented on my shirt. This was part of a Christmas gift my wife got for me. It says "Winner, Winner, Chicken Dinner" because of a game that I like to play. But here's the thing. You might be a winner, winner, chicken dinner, because let's not forget, yesterday's video in which Dr. Pritchett and I, hand me that framed piece over there, Dr. Pritchett. Dr. Pritchett and I are giving away not only 15 books if you become a patron at any level. I wanted to make that clear. Maybe it wasn't clear enough yesterday. At any level, if you become a patron, you are entered in to a drawing to win 15 books, some of which are mine, many of which are not, on apologetics and theology, to start your apologetics and theology library or to add to it. And if you are already a patron and you increase your giving, you'll be entered as well. And there'll be a runner-up that'll get 2 of my books. Also, if you are a $50 patron, or you increase to $50, or you become a patron at $50 a month, we will gift you this. And if you're already giving at $50, you get this anyway, a framed page out of an 1838 edition of William Paley's Natural Theology. So you can be a winner chicken dinner. So I hope that you will.
Is that a PUBG thing? Because somebody typed in PUBG.
It is.
Okay.
Yep. So, all right. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into the articles here. First, I want to read to you from the Pratt Tribune about this story. This is from November 24th of this year. Community responds to anti-religion shutdown attempt with donations and support. Now, what I love about this is the school. I don't love that the school caved to this as easily as they did.
Yeah,
they caved to it, and they kind of played one of the. As far as I understand it, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think you read the articles, you'll see it's almost like a, oh, wait a minute, we didn't realize that this was a sectarian thing. We didn't, by which they mean Christian. We didn't realize that. Well, we're going to stop this right away. Well, right. You didn't know who Franklin Graham was, and you're in a town like this? Come on. Right. Community response to anti-religion shutdown. All right, so here's what it says. So what I love about this is it kind of backfired on the atheist organization. A national press release last week outlining a complaint against the USD 382 school district participation in a Christmas gift-giving project for needy children was meant to shut down student involvement with a Christian organization, but instead, it may have sparked a revitalized interest and more support for Operation Christmas Child than ever before in the Pratt community. Area drop-off coordinator for Operation Christmas Child, Michelle Gatlin, said there were a lot of people upset over the complaint that stops the school children from being able to pack the gift boxes at the school. Yeah. I think it may have prompted some people who don't normally get involved in packing these shoe boxes to help. And I think it might have motivated others to contribute more. And so she goes on to talk about how they weren't sure that they were going to get the support they needed this year because of COVID and everything else. And they got tons of support. It was a mind-blowing thing.
Of course, because people like to give who are Christians.
Yeah, so there was that, and we'll get to like how should we feel about something like this in just a few minutes. But I actually looked at the Freedom from Religion Foundation website, and they didn't have anything directly written about this that I found. But what they did was they linked to a blog article on the Freedom from Religion Foundation. They linked to a blog article from the Free Thinker. Gotta love it when atheistic determinists consider themselves to be free thinkers when it is literally impossible for them to be free thinkers.
Yes. Shout out to Tim Strat.
The Free Thinking Ministries has got it right. Yeah. But if you're an atheist, you're anything but a free thinker.
That's right.
So on this Free Thinker, both of these articles are linked in the description. Schools stopped from engaging with Operation Christmas Child. Now, this is their big victory, right?
Why not just put, we ruined Christmas for kids. Yay, for us. Why don't they just put that? Put, we hate kids, so we took away their presents. That's what they should just say what you did.
Yeah, so
Grinches.
So this is a celebratory sort of thing about all these little children not getting gifts. And it says, a Kansas school only woke up to the fact that Operation Christmas Child, run by evangelist Franklin Graham's Samaritan's Purse, was a shameless exercise in proselytizing after it received a warning letter from the Freedom from Religion Foundation. So this is obviously not a non-biased news source at all. Of course, we're not either.
Stop giving, because we atheists don't like it.
According to the Christian Post, Tony Helfrich, now they're quoting the Christian Post, this atheist stuff. Superintendent from Pratt School District said in a reply to FFRF, regarding our students' participation in Operation Christmas Child, we are discontinuing that effort upon learning that its mission is more sectarian in nature than we realized. Now, that's a careful wording. We knew it was sectarian. We didn't realize how sectarian, right? Yes. The FFR complaint concerned the distribution of shoeboxes filled with gifts, including Christian quote-unquote literature. What does that mean?
Awful.
Why is it why is literature in quotes? Is it not literature? Is it a video? Is it
It's scare quote. It's
what does that mean? Literature. But there's whole like websites devoted to where people put stuff like that in quotes that, well, no, that's actually what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. John Calvin was part of the Reformation. What? He was.
Right.
Okay. Must cease. So FFR have said the school must cease participation in Operation Christmas Child or taking any other actions promoting Christianity, like including religious references over morning announcements. Many egregious constitutional violations are occurring at the school.
Egregious? They're not.
Operation Christmas Child. They may not have took the Jesus out of Christmas, but they took the H out of Christmas. But I can't make fun of them for that typo because I made a typo the other day. Everybody threw a fit. And then I decried people who throw fits about typos. And here I am doing it. I'm one of those Christian hypocrites. Operation Christmas Child ensures the propaganda boxes filled are sent to children in more than 160 nations. FFRF co-president Annie
Propaganda boxes.
They will.
What? Present boxes with a track in it.
Yeah. Like if I give my wife
Come on.
a box that is filled with something, shoes or something like that, but it has a receipt in it, it's a receipt box.
Yeah.
A lot of these groups, Annie Laurie Gaylor says, a lot of these groups rely on school authorities being ignorant about their mission. We appreciate how swiftly the district discontinued the fundraising effort after our alert. In a recent interview, the Christian, but now this is going to get good. Now, I'm sorry, I'm just reading. I'm going to stop that in a minute, but this is going to get good. If you ever, listen to me, Internet, if you ever wanted to say amen, if you're a Christian, to an atheist blog article, today is your day. Are you ready? I'm not sure we're there yet, but we're going to get there. In a recent interview with the Christian Post, Billy Graham's grandson, Edward Graham, above, said shoebox. Let's see what Edward Graham looks like. Yeah, he looks like one of them. Said shoeboxes filled with gifts were reaching more children and unreached people with the gospel than the massive global evangelistic events his grandfather held over decades.
Wow.
More kids have heard about Christ through these shoebox distributions than ever heard about Christ in stadiums with my grandfather. Now, notice this atheist blog article is mounting up evidence why this is a bad thing, right? Mm-hmm. For a school to be involved with, because look, they're clearly and obviously preaching Jesus. And I get it. It's a public school. It's a
which doesn't mean anything.
Government indoctrination facility. I understand. I'm just kidding. I'm not the right-wing conservative talk show host, although I'm not probably far away. The FF, what do you want to say about that?
Nothing. I'm just going to let that one sail by.
The FFR, I'm theologically conservative. Let's say that. I'm also politically conservative. What am I talking about? The FFRF called Samaritan's Purse a pervasively sectarian religious organization. And it argued that the use of school staff and resources to convert people to Christianity violates basic constitutional principles. While it is laudable for a public school to promote student involvement in the community by volunteering and donating to charitable organizations, the school cannot use the goal as an avenue to fund a religious organization with a religious mission. Certainly, there are other secular nonprofit organizations that offer charitable opportunities.
Not many, but there are. And guess who
is Freedom from Religion one of the Freedom from Religion?
And guess who overwhelmingly donates to those charities too?
Yeah,
Christian people. Guess who overwhelmingly operates those? Secular organizations. Christian people. Guess who doesn't send presents to anybody that I'm aware of on even 10% of the scale or 5% of the scale? Dan Barker, who's consistently lost debates and throughout his entire career. But Dan Barker and his Freedom from Religion isn't sending presents on this kind of scale. So, yeah.
Well, another thing to note from this is that Samaritan's Purse isn't trying to hide this. They said in 40 years, we've, quote, done our utmost to follow Christ's command by going to the aid of the world's poor, sick, and suffering. We are an effective means of reaching hurting people in countries around the world with food, medicine, and other assistance in the name of Jesus Christ. This, in turn, earns us a hearing for the gospel, the good news of eternal life through Jesus Christ. Well, amen. In the spring of 2016, Samaritan's Purse held an outreach event for the Himba people. Okay, now this is just horrible. Okay, now I realize for those of you who are atheists, and some of you are atheists who actually like us, So we're going to get to the other side of this thing in a minute. Okay, we will.
I get that, but there are atheists out there who don't care about this kind of stuff. I mean, they're like, okay, give the kids. I mean, whatever.
What we're doing here is we're celebrating a bit as Christians when people come to Jesus. We'll get to the political side of it in a minute. And this is supposed to be bad news. The Himba tribe consists of 50,000 semi-nomadic people who live in a region across southern Angola to northern Namibia. Before the shoebox distribution, the people of Umbaka mostly practiced ancestral worship and were resistant, quote unquote. I guess maybe they're quoting someone there. Maybe that's what it is. That's just because they're actually quoting to the gospel message. They used to be resistant to the gospel message before these Christians got involved in it, with less than 3% of people professing to be Christian. But following Operation Christmas Child Outreach event that hosted 130 children in the village, 46 children and 6 young adults wanted to continue to learn about Jesus.
Awful.
There's a bit of a ding-dong going on in the Christian Post comment section. Someone called John Whittle asked, why should an atheist group poke their nose into other people's affairs who are doing a lot of good for society, thinking they have the right to oppose the good work? Who do they think they are? It's none of their business what anyone else is doing. And Brian Wesley replied, a public school violating the religious rights of students is not poking their nose into other people's affairs. It is stopping the government from ignoring the Constitution, which is everyone's business. They are opposed to the government unlawfully using school children to proselyte Christianity. And I said, this person, if anyone is poking its nose into others' affairs, it's Samaritan's Purse. The report even gives an example of how native beliefs and culture in Namibia had been wrecked by this foul outfit, reporting it as if it were a good thing. Well, here's the thing. Christians have done a really good job, or I don't know, I can't speak to that. Christians are aware that there is value in the cultural accoutrements of a particular group of people. And so as a result, what most organizations today are trying to do is to present the gospel and introduce that as a part of their culture. And of course, when someone truly becomes a Christian, remove the religious practices and things that are opposed to Christianity and beliefs, but maintain intact the culture that is there. I mean, you can go into, trust me, I've been around the world. The cultures in these third world countries and other places, these people have been Christianized. And of course, it has affected their culture as worldview issues and beliefs always do to some degree, but it's very clear they have their own cultural things that are still very much present. So that doesn't have to be. And
one of the things that Christians have gotten a lot better at, probably in the last 40 to 50 years, though, in foreign missions, is they have gotten a lot better about contextualization. So I'm not buying this business of wrecking. That's nonsense, but Christians are really good at foreign missions doing contextualization now. So usually cultures change for the better. Some cultures, after they're Christianized, they stop eating other humans. That's a good thing.
Yeah. So honestly, Atheist says I would consider tracts to be propaganda. Me too. That's why we didn't deny it's propaganda, depending on how you define propaganda. If you define propaganda in only a negative way.
In neutral terms, it is propaganda.
It is propaganda, but it's not a propaganda box, right? It's just like I said, there is a receipt in with the shoes, but it's, I didn't give her a receipt box for Christmas. I gave her shoes, and I would take the receipt out anyway. I'm not a monster.
I get it. I mean, some people don't like anything to do if it's Franklin Graham because of all of his political stuff that he does, which I get that. But this is still overall a good thing. I get it that atheists are upset because it's got propaganda and it's a public school. And
I get it, yeah.
Even though there's nothing in the Constitution that separates, you don't establish a national religion, period. You don't prohibit the free exercise thereof, and you can arguably make the case that you don't use federal dollars for that purpose.
And I
as a state religion,
and I get it. And
as a state sanctioned religion.
Oh yeah,
right. Mm-hmm. But people during school gathering up shoeboxes and stuff is not using federal dollars to proselytize. It's just people volunteering. It goes back to the whole, can you do the see you at the poll thing? Can you do
that was mentioned there too.
Right. Yes, there are ways that you can do Christian stuff at a public school. And this is one of the better things that you could do because you can give kids presents. And if there are cultures that are resistant to the gospel, okay, but they still got toys.
Yeah, and the CEO of the poll is a
Yay! They got toys. Kids got toys. No thanks to atheists.
The CEO of the poll thing is a great example of, hey, here's the thing that's happening. We're announcing it because it's something that matters in the lives of some of our students, but you don't have to go to it, but it's there. You know, that seems, it's like a bulletin board. But that Vera says strings attached present is how they see it. And hey, as a matter of fact, since What Do You Meme did do a video on this, let's hear what What Do You Meme had to say about this.
Now, on the one hand, I get it. Based on the article, there does seem to be an evangelistic intent underlying in the shoeboxes. But what really gets me is that atheism looks more and more these days a lot like what we see in some parts of the social justice movement. Most of their energy and time goes to tearing stuff down rather than creating stuff and building stuff. I mean, if these guys don't like Christians sending out toys and presents to kids, then they can go ahead and create charities that outdo the Christian charities. Why has that not happened?
So
I'll tell you why that has not happened.
break it down.
The reason why it has not happened is, and there is so much data on this, it's no question. The reason why it doesn't happen is because atheists are stingy. In addition to being Grinches, they're by and large stingy people compared to religious people. They don't do this. They don't organize not because they don't have the scale that Christianity has in terms of persons, but percentages of individuals who give. Religious to non-religious. Not even close. Not even close. They don't. It just doesn't occur to them to be as charitable as religious people. Period. That's why they don't do it.
Well, Derek,
and if they did do it, it'd probably flop.
Well, and hold up now. Hold up now. This is where I do my
Prove
job.
me wrong.
Well, this is where I
Prove
do
me
my
wrong.
job as the good cop on
No,
Trinity
hold on.
Radio.
I want atheist. This is my challenge. Prove me wrong.
I didn't entirely hear what you said, but let me say this
don't
before you go
listen.
on.
Okay.
This is a particular atheist organization. I'm sure there are many atheists out there, as you referenced earlier, who wouldn't care and would be like, this is the kind of thing that makes us look bad. Right.
There are some like that.
There are people like that. So we're talking about the Freedom from Religion Foundation.
Yeah.
Right now. But I like what Derek P.G. Baylor says. I know a pastor that shared the gospel to tribal leaders of an African tribe that practiced child sacrifice. After a few years, the entire tribe completely ceased the child sacrifice ritual.
Yes.
Well, that is terrible. You ruined their cultural,
Right.
That's something specific to their culture that you went.
That's what I'm saying. That kind of thing happens a lot. But no, my challenge to atheists is, okay, scale to your population size compared to the Christian population size. Do as much as Christians do.
Question.
Because you're not doing it at all by comparison. So at least scale to the proportion, do the same amount.
So here's a question that Pritchett and I discussed before the show. Would really like to hear you take on the flip test here. Charity boxes put together at your child's school, and every box must include the God delusion, etc.
Great.
Yeah, give them the weakest case for atheism that has ever been produced on a mass scale like that. Absolutely. But
the whole book? I mean, I don't even think they're putting whole Bibles in these shoe boxes, are they? I mean, they're just putting like a track or
it might
something.
Be a little one of those little thin New
yeah,
Testaments
but,
or something.
or a Gideon or something. Yeah, I'm all for it. You know why? Because in any community, you're going to get maybe 2 boxes at the most, and then Christians are going to have to start packing them because Christians are the only people who care about kids to give them presents.
Don't say that.
And they'll still put, yes, I'm
Don't
saying,
say that.
By comparison,
No.
it's hyperbolic, but by comparison, it's not even close.
Well, I don't.
Yeah, I'll be.
We've got the
hyperbolic, 'cause by
numbers.
comparison, it's not even
We've
close.
got the numbers,
Yeah.
so we're going to be the ones to pack.
Right, it'll be Christians that'll have to help the atheists and probably spring for the God delusion. But you know what? Because they know what Christians know. Most kids are going to get a box of toys. They're going to see a gospel track and probably chunk it in the
But
trash
then we
and
should
play
do-
with the toys.
but here's
you know
what-
what they're going to do with the Richard Dawkins book? They're going to chunk it in the trash and they're going to play with the toys. But at least they'll still get toys.
But here,
So do it.
I actually
I'll help.
I will put my money where my mouth is. If you will find me an atheist organization that is doing something akin to Samaritan's Purse, I may be willing to fund that depending on the fine print. Okay? I'm also going to fund Samaritan's Purse. But you do that. Now,
Well, that's what I just said. They're going to need us to get even close to the scale that Christians do it by proportion.
Right. And here's what we're really saying. Now, this, I thought about, if you miss everything else, don't miss this. I thought about this as I was preparing for this show, or, pulling stuff together. Think about this. If you're an atheist, now the flip of this might not work for Christians, because we do think this is live or die, heaven and hell. But if you're an atheist, what you are saying, you don't believe Christianity is true, but you are saying, by opposing Christmas Child. Now, maybe you just don't like the fact that the Constitution is being violated, and that's really what all this is about.
But it isn't really. It's
not
not really being violent.
But if we're being real honest, and that's not what it is, you are saying, I would rather impoverished kids not get the toys and stuff in those shoe boxes than them hear the gospel and get that stuff. It's more important to me they don't hear the gospel and don't get the gifts than that they hear the gospel and get the gifts. That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying. Now, the flip side of that, again, I'm still willing to fund a secular organization that's doing something similar.
No, not secular. There's all kinds. Christians overwhelmingly fund secular organizations and charities more so.
I will
than
fund an organization. I will fund an operation within an organization put on by atheists that does something akin. I'd be willing to do that, especially if there wasn't something else already out there.
Right. You'd be like the one of 10 people at the most who would ever do it for an atheist organization out there. Trust me.
Honestly, Atheist says he might have to make a video response to this. I don't know how you have so much to say. I'm saying yes. You took your flip test and I said yes. You should be happy. But there was something else that I thought was really important here that I was going to say, and now it's gone. Talk for a minute, Pritchett, while I think.
Well, I don't know what there is to respond to, because you're going to go look at a bunch of data about the giving comparison from religious to non-religious people. Say, oh, wait, yeah, we need to do better. And like I said, I don't care if you put a shoebox together and throw Richard Dawkins' book in there, or do better than that.
Okay, I got something.
I mean, I tell people to read atheist literature all the time. Go read Arthur Schopenhauer, for example. Go read Nietzsche. Go read some of this stuff. Well, who cares?
KCA Randy, I don't know if you mean us. I didn't assume someone's motivation. I said, if you are just really concerned about the Constitution, okay, that's one thing. But if not, and then I made my comments.
Yeah.
So anyway, no, here's the thing. You know how the atheists will take, when they go into a hotel room and there's a Bible there, there are videos where they'll say to hide the Bible, which I've never understood. There's a video either from I think it was 2 Christmases ago, Matt Dillahunty and somebody else were doing a video, and he said, sometimes I've thought maybe I could hide the Bible in the room. So like, I'm not taking it, I'm just hiding it. And I'm thinking, what's going to happen if you take and hide that Bible somewhere? Either you're going to not hide it well and they're going to put it back in the drawer, in which case you wasted your time, or you're going to hide it really well and they won't find it and they'll replace that Bible, because the Gideons make sure they have those Bibles to replace. And then somebody comes along and follows your motivation, your philosophy. They hide that Bible, and by next year, there are so many Bibles hidden in that room that nobody can step foot in that room and open a door without a Bible falling out in their face. So I don't think that works very well. But sometimes atheists will encourage people to take the Bible and make their own notes in that Bible that's in the hotel room to point people to all the what they see as problematic texts and things like that. I think that that's what we should do. If we funded an atheistic operation with God delusion, we should make notations to all the completely, just not even we disagree, just that's wrong stuff in God delusion. And they'll come out on the other side stronger in Christ than when they began.
There you go.
That's right, Vera.
Yeah.
Gideons don't play.
Look, do atheists get involved with charity? Sure. Do they do much of it? Not compared to religious people. And am I surprised that they want to squash charity because it's religious? No, I'm not surprised at all. But you know what? You're being a Grinch, and it's stupid, and you should stop.
Should I feel bad I'm being so sassy today?
No, because they're like, I don't want those kids to get presents because they might get a gospel tract they may or may never read. So I'm like, they're not giving kids big, huge things to read, because, I mean, I don't know, but I mean, that would be silly because kids aren't going to read all that stuff. Maybe the parents may or may not. So, I mean, if you put the God delusion in there, I mean, they're going to look at that and So I'm all for whatever. If you're, look, quit thinking about from your perspective or even from the Christian perspective. If you need a sandwich and you're hungry, what do you care if the person tells you about Jesus while you're eating your sandwich if they're there when you get the sandwich? If they're not there, then what do you care that you got a piece of paper along with a sandwich? What you really needed is a sandwich. And what the Christian wanted to do, in addition to maybe sharing the gospel with a tract they may or may not read, is feed someone a sandwich.
This reminds me, Pritchett, you remember you and I had an interesting encounter at the local bookstore, the local privately owned artisanal bookstore,
Yes.
where the lady was, she claimed to, I'm going to say she was a professing Christian, but she must have been a progressive of some sort. And she was saying how horrible. And she told us this story about how these kids were playing this football game, but something happened. I don't remember what. And so everybody won and everybody stopped. Oh, maybe some little kid got hurt and they carried him, or something really inspirational. And it was so great, and everybody was friends on both teams, and they got on the bus, and the local church provided all of this, like these bags that had like food in it and a toy and all of that. And and it had a New Testament down in there, and she's telling us this, and I'm waiting to hear what the horrible part of this was. And she stood there looking at us with her mouth on the floor after she told the story, as one does when they react to their own story, to send the completely unclear message to the listener what it was that was supposed to be shocking. And she said, "Can you believe that?" I'm like, "What? It sounded amazing."
Yeah.
She said it was all amazing till they had to put that Bible in there, because that's forcing it down their throat. And I'm thinking, what? I mean, you're giving them free stuff for free. In fact, the Bible itself is free.
Yeah. Ask any church that hands out Bibles to high school graduates on their way to college if merely giving them that Bible ever forced that Bible down their throat. No, they're lucky if they take it with them to college. So, I mean, this kind of thinking is nonsense. But go back to, are you hungry? Do you need a sandwich? Christians want to give someone a sandwich, and the fact that they want to give a piece of paper along with it, so what? The person who's hungry just wants a sandwich, just like kids who, may not get much for Christmas. They just want some presents, and Christians are happy to send them presents, and atheists are saying no presents. That's all you're doing. Realistically, that's all you're doing is saying no presents for you.
Zamo says,
because there's a piece of paper in there that we don't like.
This is pretty big. Zamo says, Trinity Radio, me and my niece were beneficiaries of the Shoebox Project.
Amen.
Zamo lives in South Africa, I think, and is a great friend of the show. So, I'd love to hear whether you feel like you were oppressed by Westerners.
Or propagandized.
Yeah, were you propaganda?
Well, brainwashed with a tract that says, here's Four Spirit, or whatever it is, I don't know. I just don't get.
So KCA Randy says, why not just send presents then? Well, the reason is because I realize, like, when this might be a little bit of a monologue for just a second, Pritchett, but I realize that when atheists, even the ones who understand in depth our position, look back on our position, either after becoming atheists who were in the church or who have never been in the church, they look at our position, even if they understand it. Sometimes there is this idea that you guys are like taking this too seriously. I mean, I know you wouldn't say that. I'm not saying you specifically, the proverbial you. But for example, the other day, someone says to me on Twitter, well, look, why do you have to make it so that, why do you try so hard to make everyone believe like you? Well, first of all, I can't make anyone believe anything.
Right.
But why do you try so hard at that? Why can't you just accept us like we accept you? Well, I accept you in the way that you accept me. I accept you as a human being. You accept me as a human being. The thing is, we think that the toys, the presents, if there's food, the food, because we certainly give a lot of food worldwide, Christians do.
Medical care,
disaster relief, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
building houses.
Southern Baptists are better at disaster
well, that's
relief
a different
than the federal
rant.
government.
But that's a different rant. That's a different rant. And I'm glad to hear you say something good about Southern Baptists, but that's a different rant.
Oh, they're awesome at that.
But here's the thing. As much as we believe that is important, and we do believe that's important, we also really do believe the stuff we're talking about heaven and hell and the truth of the gospel and a kingdom that you can be a part of and all of those kind of things. And we think that actually far outweighs what we can do materially. But doing things for people materially is extremely important.
Yeah.
And so we do both.
This is and this is where they will want to say, yeah, but you don't really care about the gifts. What you really want to do is convert them to Christianity. And, talk about impugning motives. No, I really want to give gifts to people, and I want to see people come to Christ. Those are mutually exclusive.
And they're both love for people.
Right. It's loving your neighbor. One isn't, over the other or whatever. It's just, this is how Christians operate. Now, I know some atheists are thinking, yeah, we're not opposed to this. We're opposed to it happening in a school. So all I'm hearing is you're opposed to being efficient and getting more people involved. That's all I hear.
Now, I can think if I was an atheist and this school, I wouldn't, I cannot get myself there to actually take action or want so badly for kids not to hear the gospel and for that to be done by a school because of political correctness and constitutional, all that sort of thing, that I would prevent kids from getting presents. I can't see, there is a American legalism there that is gross, but I think, but at the same time, I can understand it in principle. I can get there in principle, but actually what I'm doing here is trying to call you to that lack of legalism. It's kind of like there's this great story in Don Johnson's book, How to Talk to a Skeptic, about this girl that was not the best at softball or whatever. She was really stressed out to play the game and all this, and her friends were, pushing her, just do the best. If you just get on base, that's great. We're just glad to have you there. And she hits a home run. And she's running around the bases. And it's so awesome that everybody, even on both teams, kind of like the last story, are cheering her on. But between third base and home, she gives high fives to all the people that are lined up there. And she gets home, and it's great. And they're putting her on her shoulders and all that. And the referee, or the umpire, whatever. I don't know sports ball.
No.
What is it?
I wasn't listening. You've been talking.
Calls it.
It's an umpire.
Yeah, and it's baseball. No good. It's no good. Not a run, because there's a rule. Technically, you're not allowed to touch other team members or something when you're running from around the bases. And everybody was mad. Everybody, even the other team, was mad. Why? Because that sort of sick legalism that gets in the way of something that is obviously good is gross. Yeah,
and if they're doing this at lunch or before school or after school, and they're just using the school as a base of operations that the majority of the taxpayers fund in that district that want to do this kind of thing, it's not, it's not even unconstitutional.
Yeah, and Den Dragon, I appreciate, he says, I'll just say it now. I'm only an atheist because I don't know, and thus I don't believe. I do accept Christians so long as they don't mind me being an atheist. I'm not trying to convert people to atheism. Okay, now that line is what I like to hone in on. I appreciate the sentiment here. I do. I just want to say this may be true of Den Dragon. And there are many atheists out there and many atheist YouTube channels that will say, we're just trying to have a conversation. We're just trying to build bridges. We're just trying to think out loud. We're just trying to help you learn how to talk about these things too. We're not trying to convert anybody to atheism. If you want to be a Christian, just be a Christian. That's fine. And that may be true of those people. But when organizations like the Freedom From Religion Foundation, and I understand atheism is not monolithic. I get that. I understand you may not support that. And I'm glad.
It's monolithic and not giving as much as religious people.
But when they do stuff like this, it sure looks like they do not want people to hear the gospel, which is akin to, we don't want people to be Christians. So, yeah. I don't know. What else do we have to say?
I'm sad that Samaritan's Purse didn't fight this and say, look, we're not violating the Constitution here. That's stupid, because they weren't violating the Constitution. But you can scare a school district. But I'm surprised Samaritan's Purse put up with it. But, I'm sure this happens in other schools where nobody's throwing a fuss because Dan Barker didn't hear about it, so he couldn't grinch it up all over the country. But, where they do, Christians should fight this kind of thing, because we have a right to use those facilities as well, especially if the majority of people living in those communities are taxpayers who fund the school. So, with their property taxes. So.
Just speaking from Australia here, it seems to me Australia is not as Christian as the USA, but is also not as anti-Christian. Well, I don't, I do not have my hand on the pulse of the Australian culture, obviously, like someone that lives there, and I was only there for about 2 weeks. But when I was there, I
believe that kangaroos weren't real.
Kangaroos are not real. I'm just telling you, they don't exist. They told me when I landed in Australia, Australia is real. There are Australia deniers. I'm not one of those. It's real, as far as I know. I mean, they could have flown around for 17 hours and landed in Arizona somewhere. But I believe that I believe in Australia. I'm an Australia believer. But there are no kangaroos. They have all these. Keith knows about this. On the fronts of their cars, they have all of these like cages and stuff like what do you call it, to block so that when because you're going to run into kangaroos. You don't want to mess up your car. It's like the way we in America run into deer everywhere.
A guardrail in the front of the
yeah,
car?
like a rail, yeah. And we run into deer everywhere, and we ought to take a lesson from these people. My dad ran into a deer the other day in his RV. Did I tell you about that?
No, you didn't.
Anyway, but I never saw one. They said you're going to see them everywhere. I didn't see one. I went way out in the bush. They said, "Oh, you'll see them in the morning. You'll see them." Didn't see them. They don't exist. They're not real. The ones we've seen have been animatronics, and Pixar's been involved in that. But all that said, that's the notion I got, Keith. I did meet some Christians there that weren't even a part of the group that I was there with. And I did talk to some unbelievers who didn't strike me as being like militant or whatever. So I get it. Yeah. He says kangaroos are like the flying spaghetti monster. Okay. Honestly, Atheist says, I certainly do at least some varieties of Christianity is harmful.
Yeah,
and I would want to prevent those.
Too.
Of course, we think so too.
We rant about that all the time.
What percentage of the global population right now is Christian? It's a substantial number that claim or profess to be Christians. You're going to find weird groups. We all decry the Westboro Baptist. Most of Christianity decries that. Most of Christianity decries the wealth and prosperity, gold dust coming from the ceiling sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're with you. We'll stand with you in opposition to that. Does anybody have any other questions or anything for us? Because I
want to make some concluding thoughts.
Okay. That doesn't mean it's the conclusion, but he's going to make some
on this
thoughts.
Subject before we get to Q&A. Atheists, do better. Quit being offended that Christians are using a public school to do Christian stuff. They always use public schools to do Christian stuff, and it doesn't violate the Constitution to be at a public school and do Christian stuff. And encourage others to do Christian stuff at a public school. Like, see you at the poll. No big deal, right? Hey, bring a shoebox so that we can give kids some presents who won't get any. Atheists should fill a shoebox too. And you know what you should do? You should fill a shoebox and then ask the people, say, do you, this is not my religion. I want kids. Will you send this without a track? Maybe try that and see if they'll do it. Why not? But instead of preventing charity, you guys need to do more of it. And not just because one or two atheists do charity. I'm talking about in proportion to the, you got to scale it because there's more Christians and there are atheists. We get it. But I think on average, it's like 100% more that religious people do than non-religious. I think in total dollars, it's like $1,500 to like $600 on average charitable giving. It's like way more. It's not even close.
Slam RN's going to
do better, atheists, and quit complaining about Christmas stuff in public schools. It's
Slam RN's going to tee you up here, Jonathan.
Okay.
She went and got this off the FFRF website that did this. Quote, the history of Western civilization shows us that most social and moral progress has been brought about by persons free from religion.
Yeah, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard today. But the day's not over, but that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Well, react to this. Derek PG Baylor, I've been saying. You corrected me once, but short memory. In case you haven't addressed it, what about any atheist that responds to you by granting your point, but saying it doesn't make Christianity true?
Kids still get presents. That's the point. Give kids presents. It doesn't make atheist or Christianity true. That's why atheists should fill a shoebox and help out.
Jose Martinez, thank you for the super chat. Baylor, thank you for the super chat. Martinez says, I've had many worldview discussions with my dad, and I've noticed he doesn't seem to care about truth and evidence. What should I do in this case? Well, the other option you have, hold up. The other option you have is the simple proclamation of the gospel and living it out in front of him.
Yep.
That's
why giving presents works. That's why they don't really like it, because they were complaining that, wow, 46 kids and several adults wanted to learn more about Jesus. You know, it's not the YouTube channels for everybody. It's not the Sunday morning services. It's when I was hungry, did you give me something to eat kind of stuff, you know? Jesus wants us to have hands and feet out there being active, and it's effective. And it's more effective for certain types of people than sitting there having these conversations about truth and evidence and worldview. It just is. The Spirit moves when Christians do Christian stuff.
Brad from Carolina says, and thank you for that substantial super chat. I appreciate that, Brad. I'm proud to call you brothers in the faith. Your work is a major brick in the foundation of the ministry I've been given. Thank you. Merry Christmas, and God bless you all, everyone. Tiny Tim. Thank you so much, Brad.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate that.
And let's get back to KCA Randy, who says, well, if we're not talking about motivation, then don't complain about presents as if it was FFRF's motivation. I don't think that it's their motivation to prevent kids from getting presents. I'm saying there's no question that's what happens when you prevent kids from getting presents. They don't get presents.
Yeah, I don't care what their motivation is. They're being Grinches. Yeah, I mean,
I've been way too sassy today, Pritchett.
It's fine. Atheists they hate children. I'm kidding. They don't hate children. Well, some do, but no, you just saying, I don't want them to get presents. I want to make this harder for kids to get presents because I don't like a piece of paper they put in the shoebox. Now, look, atheists, if you can show me that this, and Zamo can help us out, if the proportion of Christian propaganda literature, whatever, is more than the presence in there, then yeah, I will stand up and hold a banner or something and complain about it. But I don't think that's the case. So at the end of the day, you're just keeping kids from getting presents and being Grinches.
I don't know what this is about. Uber Scheiser says, so did he just say Christian stuff is spreading the word? Would you still give presents if you were not Christian?
I didn't say that.
I don't know what that is.
What we said was we're not saying, we'll evangelize and we'll just have to give these stupid little presents. But our real intent is to propagandize these
Who's
people.
saying that?
That's what I'm saying is that's nowhere on the radar of good-hearted folks that want to send kids Christmas presents and also share the gospel while they're doing it.
Yeah, I guarantee you that the church folk who are gathering in the fellowship hall or whatever and packing these shoeboxes are not. I guarantee you they're praying and they're crying over these kids while they're putting this stuff in there. Not just their soul, but their current situation.
Yeah, they're sad that these people aren't going to have gifts, and they want them to have gifts, and so they're packing shoeboxes filled with gifts that cost money, that they went and spent all this money, way more than what they spent on whatever tract they're throwing in the shoebox. And they're doing it for all of those reasons. Those aren't mutually exclusive. There's nothing sinister. They're not cackling in the back room saying, well, I mean, these toys, yeah, but I mean, the real thing is this piece of paper. No, you can...
Elizabeth says,
Christians
I haven't been
like
sassy enough.
Yeah, you should trash people who don't want kids to get presents. So I've been doing it because, you know what? Atheists need to go fill a shoebox of toys and send it to somebody because they're buying far more stingy than religious people are when it comes to charitable giving on average.
They should make the winter solstice boxes.
You know what? I don't have to disclaim everything I say on average. No, atheists, you should give more because you don't give as much. You're stingy. And then at Christmas time, you're taking presents away from kids.
John Beaver says, did you say the atheist action had the actual effect of getting more donations? Can you discuss that? So that was from the article from, I think, the city paper there. Let me see. This is from the Pratt Tribune. I'm taking it that is their community paper. And it says, area drop-off coordinator for Operation Christmas Child, Michelle Gatlin, said there were a lot of people upset over the complaint that stopped the school children from being able to pack the gift boxes at the school. I think it may have prompted some people who don't normally get involved in packing these shoe boxes to help, and I think it may have motivated others to contribute more. So
yes,
it doesn't necessarily mean that they got more than they did the previous year or whatever. I don't know about that. That may be the case. It just, they think that if it weren't for this, it would have likely been less.
Yeah, well, the press gives it. This kind of thing happens, and we can pick on the God and country type, conservative, evangelical. They get a lot of negative stuff said about them, right? One thing you gotta love about them is the second some atheist group or some left-wing group says you need to boycott some Goya beans, what do? They go empty the shelves out of Goya beans. These things backfire 100% of the time. So I don't know why they keep doing it.
And it's just,
but God love them for doing that kind of thing. That these atheists want to stop us from giving presents to kids. By golly, we're going to do twice as much. So in the end, yeah, maybe they are helping the cause. So
I mean, it's not a good look either.
Yeah, but it's not a good look. It's not. It's
Derek PG Baylor. Thank you for another super chat, Derek. He says, I think I've given more in super chats to you guys in the last few months than most atheists give in charity all year.
Indeed, sir.
Guys,
indeed.
Be nice.
No, because the data supports this. And until that evens out more, I'm going to keep ripping them to shreds. You know how awful they say about us on a daily basis on YouTube? Tired of it. It's Christmas.
Vera says, even my hardcore atheist father will donate to children through religious organizations. He doesn't seek out non-religious charities.
Right. You know what, though? Christians give to non-religious charities all the time, too. More so than non-religious people. Christians just do more charity. And yeah, this Operation Shoebox Christian thing, that doesn't mean they don't give to the American Heart Association either. They give to that too, and blood donations and all kinds of secular stuff. Christians just do more of it.
So Punchbowl Haircut, who's a friend of the show, he's calling us on the carpet here. He says, look, not giving gifts to people because of a piece of paper inside seems like a pretty strawy straw man. Can you give a steel man? All right. Not so, as we said before,
that's not a straw man. That's the outcome.
Yeah, but he's saying it's not just a piece of paper, right? It's obviously more meaningful than that. We don't even see it as just a piece of paper. But
I'll tell you, most of the kids receive those boxes.
Yeah, now that may be the case.
If you need a sandwich, you don't care if someone's talking about Jesus, you're getting a sandwich.
But not 43 kids in Namibia or whatever. But
praise God for that.
But here's the thing. If there was a piece of paper that explained some atheistic ideas in those shoe boxes, but there was a bunch of support, we gave that parallel too. So I think we steel manned it by comparing ourselves.
Yeah, we said we throw a Richard Dawkins book that nobody would. Well,
and here's another thing: if these things are going to third world countries and developing world countries and stuff like that, where Christianity is flourishing, and even if Christianity is not flourishing in those particular areas, they're not atheists. So a Christian message might get a hearing. I don't really have to worry as much about a Richard Dawkins book that somebody's going to look at and this is absolutely horrible, because it's not an atheistic or atheistic sympathetic society. And by the way, when you talk about, when I responded a few weeks ago to Apostate Prophet, looked at all the numbers for China right now and the rise in Christianity in the East, particularly in China right now, all the talk about the rise in atheism needs to be measured by what's going on there. Okay, let's see. Anything else before we go?
These kind of things just irritate me to no end.
If it was just a piece of paper, and if you believed it would have no ideological impact, you would not have included it. Yeah, that's what we just responded to.
Yeah.
Question. What if the FFRF says those kids not getting gifts is a small price to pay to keep dangerous religion from spreading or to keep youths from being brainwashed?
I would roll my eyes and move on. If that's what they're going to say, that's the whole Richard Dawkins teaching your kids your religion is child abuse and blah, blah, blah. I just roll my eyes at that stuff. Stupid. That's something I could not take seriously. I can barely take seriously the constitutional argument because there's really nothing there either. But that's the kind of YouTube atheist thing that they would say. And once you go atheist YouTuber, we wouldn't take that seriously.
Well, I would want to know more. What's dangerous about it? I would imagine they would say
they might grow up and start filling shoeboxes of their own.
The teachings about human sexuality, maybe, that might result in those kids remaining virgins until marriage. The homosexuality thing that could lead to, they might say, discrimination. I'm trying to steelman it here. What else? The exclusivism of Christianity, that Jesus is the only way, might be damaging. Just the fact that you're believing stuff that without logic. I'm putting myself in their shoes.
I understand.
Right? And so how would I respond to that? My response would be to say something like, look, the reality is these are gifts for kids. These kids need this stuff. And here's the thing. If you feel that way, create a secular version of this. Christians will support it, and let's do it that way. But you got to work with what you got. And then in my heart, I would realize that what we're doing here is infinitely more valuable than the secular version that you're probably not going to come up with anytime soon.
Yeah, but see, the second let's say that Dan Barker watches this. I know that he probably will because he's obsessed with you.
No, he's not.
Just kidding.
I have no reason to think that.
No. Well, I mean, if I got beat so badly in a debate by Braxton Hunter, I'd probably be gunning for him every day and looking for every sound bite I could get to use as ammo in a response video fewer people will watch. But let's say he does this, and his sole intent is to put an atheist track in there with the shoebox or the Richard Dawkins book or whatever. I'm all for it. Because Christians, we say up front why we do things the way we do them, because we want to see people come to know Jesus. Atheists, how many atheist debates have you heard where the atheist is, I'm not here to change anybody's mind. I'm not here to do this. I'm not here to do, you know what I'm saying? I hear that all the time. We're not trying to evangelize. Some people are, like what? Who's the YouTuber that point blank says I'm trying to deconvert?
Pine Creek?
Yeah, there's one. But most atheists I've heard don't say things like that. And so the second that they start doing that intentionally, like more of them, great. Because now it's one more thing that they can't complain about us. Like Patreon. When atheists started Patreon, no more complaints about, tithes and offerings or whatever. So I'm all for atheists doing more so that you can take more and more of your own rhetoric away from you.
Watchmaker says, it's flourishing because it's being pushed relentlessly on people. Do either of you have any actual decent arguments? So, Watchmaker, I'm going to say this. I hear all the time in atheist YouTube videos and in comments, Christians have no good arguments. None of it's convincing. You don't have anything. There's not one shred of evidence that Christianity is true or that God exists or anything like that. Okay, we have a playlist on this channel for the theistic arguments and reasons to believe that God exists. We have a playlist on this channel for the resurrection and other reasons to believe Christianity is true. We have a playlist on this channel that responds to major world religions. We have one for the Bible and what we think about that and why. We have presented all of those theistic arguments, all of those cases. We do it pretty regularly on this channel as I regularly respond to atheists. So here's what I'm saying. If you want to look at all of that and ditch it and say that's no good, that doesn't count, that's fine. This might not be the channel for you. The thing is, every time an atheist tells me that's not good enough and I ask them, okay, can you give me some standards that if we qualify these standards, you'll feel like we did present you a solid argument, a solid reason to believe. And almost 100% of the time, well, there's two responses. One will be, I don't, the Dillahunty, I don't know what would convince me, but if there's a God, he should know. When it may be that God knows about you, that you won't be convinced. You'll talk yourself out of anything because you have a flawed epistemology that doesn't allow for it. And the evidence of that is you're telling me everything that we give you is not a demonstration and not given good enough, but you won't tell me what would count as good enough, which means you're free to dismiss anything we give you without that upward barrier, which leaves you in a position to believe whatever you want without dealing with what's actually being said. All right,
Okay.
that's one thing. The second thing is to say, turn water into wine, do something miraculous right here in front of me, when God has given you a clear path to interact with him in this age that isn't that. So it's one of those two things. So I'm not trying to be harsh, but if a particular atheist wants to come to our channel and actually take the time to go through what we've said in videos like that, and then still says, you don't have any evidence, then we're not speaking the same language. And that's fine. You don't have to come to this channel. And it may be that I'm not the person that God's going to use to reach you, if anybody reaches you. So that's kind of my position on that.
My position is, if it's flourishing because it's being pushed relentlessly, that means Christians are doing their job. I continually hear the opposite, at least about the West, where Christianity's waning, right? And then atheists will actually cheer about it waning, so I don't know which it is, unless he's talking about flourishing in the East. The second thing I want to say is, do we have any actual arguments? Yes, we have literally recorded hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of video of actual arguments. Your opinions of them, that's just autobiography, don't care. The show topic today has nothing to do with here's arguments and evidence for the truth of Christianity, and the title card, the title makes that clear. So I don't know what the complaint is in this particular broadcast.
Here's the atheist version of Jonathan Pritchett, which is Noel Plum, who I think I have to say is my favorite new atheist to respond to, because I just like listening to this guy talk. And I don't mean like every other dumb American just because of his accent. Not that all Americans are dumb, because of his accent. He is just a wordsmith, and it's enjoyable to listen to him talk. And he says, my only problem is when Christians ruin the true commercial spirit of Christmas with all the Jesus stuff. I told Pritchett the other day, I'm entertained by atheists. Yeah. Even when they're making fun of me, not that he was, but when they are making fun of me, I can still be entertained.
Yeah,
and enjoy the creativity that God put in them.
That's right. That's funny.
Someone asked me, Hervey Schmervey asked me, I can't find it now to put it up there, but what version of what Bible app do I prefer? I haven't explored a lot, but I like the YouVersion Bible app just fine. One complaint, apparently it has that Passion Translation that Mike Winger is debunking all the time. And Plantinga's Bulldog is back, says been trying to get on one of these live streams for a while, and you're back. Let's see. Derek says, pretty sure if Christianity was being forced on people, it wouldn't flourish because the natural human tendency is to resist what's being... Yes, thank you for reminding me of that. Someone said, oh, it's only flourishing in China because people are forcing other people to believe it. Listen, I don't know.
While they're throwing them in prison.
I don't know what's going... Okay. I don't know what's going on in every particular situation, but I know that it is flourishing rapidly, and there are articles. There's one article in The Economist that's pretty recent explaining one of the reasons for that, and it's it's providing the meaning and relational connection and some of the great things about what Christianity does so well. But there's actually a video. If you'll go on my Twitter and go back just a few, I don't know, maybe a week or 2 weeks, I tweeted a sermon from my pastor, and in that sermon on gratitude, he shows an underground church in China receiving Bibles. Now, these are not, the people receiving these Bibles are not impoverished people, but they're receiving these Bibles. So it's not like, oh, well, it's because they couldn't afford one. No, it's not. That's not what it was. They're getting these Bibles and they are blown away. They are like cheering and excited, and it's the greatest thing ever. And then I have Bibles just sitting around, and you atheists have Bibles just sitting around. And it's like, these people are so touched to just get a Bible. It doesn't look to me much like those Chinese people are being forced to believe it.
All right.
Of course, if you're an atheist, it's all determined. So I guess they are forced by the causes of nature, and you can talk with the universe about that, I guess. Father Hunter and Father Pritchett, what do you think about Tom Holland's book, Dominion? Don't call any man father. I mean, unless he's your dad, maybe. And Tom Holland, I haven't read Dominion yet.
I haven't read it yet.
But I did an episode. I love Tom Holland. I did an episode on Tom Holland and N.T. Wright's discussion on Unbelievable a couple of years ago. Really powerful, Tom Holland there, because Tom Holland's being asked by Justin Brierley and N.T. Wright, so you believe there was a historical Paul, and you believe Paul had some sort of a Damascus Road experience that somehow instantly changed him, converted, whatever it was, changed him from being a persecutor of the church to one of its biggest advocates. I'm going to paraphrase, but he says this is the sentiment. He's like, I have no idea. It is the weirdest thing. It just makes, no sense. And it's so great to see that, because you've got a guy who's not doing all the mythicist stuff and all of that. And there's people that also, I think, who's the Bob Price? I think he doubts Paul too, that Paul existed. I could have that wrong, or maybe he's changed his mind, but I think I've heard that at one point that he felt that way. And he's not doing any of that. Tom Holland's not doing that. Tom Holland, and we're not talking about the Spider-Man guy, by the way. And Tom Holland's he knows the historically likely stuff here, and his mind is boggled by it. You know what fits it all perfectly? That he had a Damascus Road experience that was an encounter with Jesus Christ.
Michael Bowles got a good comment there. I concur.
Maybe you want to read it.
Love is, Michael Bowles is a good friend of ours in a graduate assistant, but when you have that on, I can't see it. Love is the bedrock ideal for human flourishing. Amen. Religious practice is a protected constitutional activity. Amen. Trying to get Christians to stop demonstrating love to their community is evil. Yes, exactly. Doing the work of evil there, freedom from religion people.
Well,
that's evil. I agree. That's just evil.
Well, I agree with what Boyle is saying here, but I will say, I think their problem is that the teachers and stuff were involved in it.
Which they have a constitutional right to do, as long as they're not, see you at the poll. They can go to see you at the poll. They can do all kinds of religious stuff.
Benjamin Handelman is down 48 pounds total now.
Yes.
Thanks to Theology Geek Fitness Facebook group. Theology Geek Fitness. You'll want to be a part of that. Are atheists allowed to be a part of that?
Yes. They should go watch the channel. There are some atheists that would be well benefited by paying attention to the Theology Geek Fitness stuff. Just as there are Christians who would benefit from it.
Well, I think now we've made it to the bottom of the list. We've been going for about an hour and 10 minutes, so maybe we should go ahead and call it. Before we go, don't go anywhere. Don't do that. Don't go anywhere. Stay, internet, because I do want to show you one couple of things. One couple of things. Actually, two couples of things. First of all, now that we've got to 10,000 subscribers, finally, we now have the merch shelf that you should be seeing below this video. Let me see if you are. Are you? You are. Okay. Let me show you a couple of things in particular here. Whoops. Am I ever going to be able to get down to it now? What happened? Here we go. First of all, we have this is our best-selling shirt on the channel. That's enough pseudo-intellectual blather with a picture of Pritchett on there.
Pseudo-sanctimonious.
Yeah, but here it says pseudo-intellectual because it wasn't just... That's when you're talking to other Christians, you said. And then we have here, some stickers with the classic Trinity Radio logo on it. So that's pretty cool. And
you're never going to get this in time for Christmas, but
I have it on a folder somewhere. Yeah. And then we also have the Y t-shirt.
Yep.
People asked us for a Y t-shirt, and I don't think anybody's ever bought one, but this is awesome because people are always asking you, like you'll go up to the barista at whatever coffee vendor you go to. I'm not going to say Starbucks because I'm not going to buzz market for them. They're not supporting the show yet. Yet. We're looking at you, Starbucks.
So if you get Christmas money.
But if you walk up with a Y shirt, they'll be like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
And then
you can tell them why.
Yeah. And if you get Christmas money, you can buy yourself one of these things for Christmas.
And here's the newest thing we have. It says it's a mask for the coronavirus. If you didn't know, we're in the midst of a worldwide pandemic. It says smile. There's evidence for Christianity. So you want to check that out.
And buy yourself one of these items as a Christmas present to yourself, or a post-Christmas present to yourself. And they make great gifts for birthdays, and they make great gifts for, Mother's Day, Father's Day.
John Beavers, I will check that channel out. theremin trees. I will check that channel out. But listen, I'm going to go ahead and start the ceremonial outro music. And while it's playing, I want to say how much I appreciate. Eddie Vasquez says, I love the Y t-shirt. Cordy says, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
We're forcing people to buy our products. I'm going on a shopping spree. Well, Noel Plum will be happy that you're going on a shopping spree. That's the commercialized version that he's into.
And look, I'm a Christian. I get the best of both worlds. I love Santa. I love buying presents. I love my pagan Christmas tree, supposedly pagan Christmas tree. And I love celebrating the birth of my Lord. You can do all of it.
And who's your Lord?
Jesus Christ.
And with that, we'll see you next time on Trinity Radio. We can do it, Eddie. We'll figure it out.